While most of us will be lucky to see 80, there are communities where reaching 100 is just another milestone. While we fear dementia and heart disease, they age with minds sharp as steel and hearts that refuse to quit. The difference between us and them comes down to a few crucial letters in our genetic code. These aren't health fanatics or wellness gurus. They're ordinary people living in remote corners of the world who carry genetic advantages that 90% of humanity will never possess. Scientists call these mysterious longevity hotspots blue zones, places on Earth where the normal rules of human aging simply don't apply. In this video, we'll explore how centuries of isolation and survival created the closest thing to a biological fountain of youth, and what it means for the future of human longevity. The story begins with Michel Poulain hunched over a desk in Brussels in 1997, analyzing death certificates from rural Italy. As a demographic researcher, Poulain had studied mortality patterns across Europe for decades, but the numbers coming out of central Sardinia made no sense. In 14 isolated mountain villages scattered across the Barbagia region, men were living as long as women, a statistical impossibility that occurs nowhere else on Earth. Poulain grabbed a blue marker and circled these anomalous villages on his map. That blue circle would give birth to a term that would revolutionize longevity research: the blue zone. Working alongside Italian epidemiologist Gianni Pes, Poulain calculated something called the Extreme Longevity Index, the number of centenarians per 10,000 newborns. The average across Sardinia was already impressive at 50 per 100,000 births. But inside those blue circles, the rate jumped to over 500 per 100,000, 10 times higher than most developed nations. These weren't random statistical blips. Something extraordinary was happening in these forgotten mountain communities, and Poulain's discovery would trigger a global hunt for similar genetic treasure troves. News of Poulain's findings reached Dan Buettner, a National Geographic Fellow who specialized in finding the world's most exceptional places. Buettner assembled a team of demographers, anthropologists, and medical researchers with a single mission: find other places where the impossible was happening regularly. Their search led them first to Okinawa, Japan, where researchers had been quietly documenting extraordinary longevity since the 1970s. The Okinawa Centenarian Study, launched by Dr. Makoto Suzuki in 1976, had been following the island's elderly population for over 2 decades. What they found challenged everything medical science thought it knew about aging. Okinawan women weren't just living longer, they were reaching the world's highest life expectancy, while maintaining remarkable physical and mental health well past 100. The team's next discovery emerged from World Health Organization mortality data, showing an inexplicable anomaly in Costa Rica. On the Nicoya Peninsula, a thumb of land jutting into the Pacific Ocean, men were dying at rates 20% lower than anywhere else in the country. Dr. Luis Rosero Bixby from the University of Costa Rica had been tracking this phenomenon since the 1990s, finding that Nicoyan males had a 7-fold higher probability of reaching 100 compared to Japanese men, previously considered the world's longest-lived males. The Greek island of Ikaria emerged from the research of Dr. Christodoulos Stefanadis, a cardiologist who had been studying cardiovascular health across the Aegean Islands. His data revealed that Icarians suffered rates of dementia and depression 50% lower than Americans, despite having virtually no modern medical infrastructure. Heart disease, the leading killer worldwide, seemed to barely touch this remote island population. The final blue zone appeared in an unexpected place: Loma Linda, California. Here, a community of Seventh-day Adventists had been quietly outliving their neighbors by 8 to 10 years since the religion's founding in the 1860s. Epidemiologist Dr. Gary Fraser had been tracking this community's health outcomes through the Adventist Health Studies since 1974, documenting longevity advantages that couldn't be explained by lifestyle alone. Each location shared the same mind-bending characteristic: centenarian rates that defied every mathematical model of human aging. But the real breakthrough was still coming. These revelations are exactly what Ancestry Code is all about, uncovering the hidden biological secrets that connect ancient populations to modern science. If you're fascinated by how DNA holds the keys to human longevity, subscribe to our channel for more genetic discoveries that are rewriting what we thought we knew about our species. Now, on to the video. The turning point came in 2008 when Dr. Bradley Wilcox published groundbreaking research in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Wilcox, director of the Pacific Health Research Institute in Hawaii, had been collecting DNA samples from Okinawan centenarians for over a decade. His genetic analysis revealed something that changed everything scientists thought they knew about human longevity. Deep within the chromosomes of these exceptional individuals, specific gene variants appeared at frequencies found nowhere else on Earth. The FOXO3 gene, which controls how cells respond to stress and damage, showed up in protective variants in over 75% of Okinawan centenarians. In most global populations, only about 30% carry these advantageous versions. This gene acts like a cellular repair supervisor, directing armies of enzymes to fix DNA damage, clear out toxic proteins, and maintain cellular youth. Parallel studies in Sardinia revealed equally concentrated frequencies of protective APOE gene variants that shield the brain from Alzheimer's disease. But here's what makes blue zone longevity truly remarkable. These people carry the same disease-causing genes that kill everyone else. Heart disease genes, cancer genes, diabetes genes. They have them all. The difference lies in what most of us are missing. While blue zone people inherited genetic bodyguards that neutralize these threats, the average person carries genetic time bombs with no protection. When heart disease tries to attack, their FOXO3 genes activate protective responses that most people simply don't possess. When cancer-causing mutations arise, their enhanced DNA repair systems eliminate the threat before tumors can form. This genetic divide explains why most humans age predictably and die from the same diseases, while blue zone populations seem immune to the killers that claim everyone else. Dr. Nir Barzilai's studies of Ashkenazi Jewish centenarians in New York revealed that exceptional longevity required combinations of protective variants working together like a biological orchestra. These individuals inherited genetic symphonies of longevity that most humans never receive. This discovery completely reframed the longevity puzzle. These communities weren't just living healthier lives, they were operating with superior biological hardware. But the genetic advantages revealed in blue zone DNA tell only part of the story. Modern DNA sequencing technology has finally unlocked the complete molecular blueprint that makes blue zone longevity possible. Inside their bodies, the normal rules of cellular aging simply don't apply. While most people's cells accumulate damage with each passing year, blue zone cells operate like biological time machines that refuse to acknowledge the passage of time. At the cellular level, their genetics operate like a comprehensive biological defense system with multiple layers of protection. Their cells maintain longer telomeres through enhanced telomerase enzyme activity, the cellular equivalent of resetting the aging clock with each division. In average populations, these cellular timekeepers count down relentlessly toward death, but in blue zone people, they stay remarkably preserved. The BRCA1 and ATM genes, famous for their roles in cancer prevention, work overtime in blue zone people to repair DNA damage that accumulates from daily living. The daily accumulation of genetic errors that normally leads to cancer, organ failure, and death gets erased by cellular repair crews working around the clock. Their mitochondria, the powerhouses that fuel every cell, function with the efficiency of people decades younger. While most 40-year-olds show declining cellular energy production, blue zone 90-year-olds maintain the metabolic output of healthy middle-aged adults. Variants of superoxide dismutase and catalase genes create supercharged antioxidant systems that neutralize free radicals before cellular destruction occurs. Inflammatory response pathways controlled by genes like TNF-alpha and IL-6 prevent the chronic inflammation that drives heart disease, diabetes, and neurodegeneration in most populations. Their cortisol and adrenaline pathway genes respond to stress differently, preventing the cellular damage that typically accumulates from life's inevitable pressures. Perhaps most remarkably, recent research by Dr. Paola Sebastiani at Boston University revealed that supercentenarians, people who live past 110, carry an average of 17 disease risk variants, the same as everyone else, but they also possess an average of 19 protective variants that act as genetic bodyguards. This discovery revolutionized the field. Exceptional longevity isn't about winning a perfect genetic lottery. It's about inheriting enough protective variants to neutralize the dangerous ones. The genetic architecture resembles a biological insurance policy where multiple backup systems compensate for any single point of failure. When one protective pathway weakens with age, another takes over to maintain cellular function. Scientists have identified over 100 genetic variants associated with exceptional longevity, creating what researchers call longevity signatures. Unique combinations of protective genes that work together to extend healthy lifespan. Calling them genetic advantages is an understatement. They're comprehensive biological defense systems operating at maximum efficiency. What makes blue zones truly extraordinary isn't just their genetics, it's how perfectly their lifestyles amplify those genetic advantages. These communities unknowingly developed the precise behaviors needed to activate their longevity genes. In Okinawa, the daily practice of tending gardens provides exactly the type of natural movement that triggers FOXO3 pathways. Their traditional plant-based diet of purple sweet potatoes and bitter melons contains compounds that activate the same cellular repair systems their genes are designed to support. The cultural practice of forming lifelong social bonds through moai groups reduces chronic stress in ways that specifically benefit people with their genetic variants. In Sardinia, walking 20 miles daily across mountain terrain activates metabolic pathways that only function properly in people with specific gene combinations. Their traditional diet of sheep cheese, sourdough bread, and Canano wine provides nutrients that enhance the cellular protection their genetics already provide. Even their afternoon rest periods synchronize with genetic rhythms that regulate cellular repair cycles. These aren't random healthy habits. They're lifestyle prescriptions perfectly calibrated to maximize genetic potential that most humans don't possess. Understanding how these genetic advantages arose requires diving deep into the brutal history that forged them. Sardinia's longevity laboratory was sculpted by 8,000 years of relentless natural selection. Around 6000 BCE, Neolithic farmers first arrived on the island to find a landscape of stunning beauty and deadly challenges. The coastal plains teemed with Anopheles mosquitoes carrying malaria that killed settlers within months of arrival. Phoenician, Roman, and Arab raiders regularly swept the shores, enslaving or slaughtering anyone they found. The survivors had only one option: retreat to the Gennargentu Mountains, where the air was too thin for mosquitoes and the terrain too rugged for invaders. Life in these mountains demanded genetic perfection. Shepherds walked 20 to 30 miles daily across rocky paths at altitudes above 3,000 feet. Winter temperatures dropped below freezing, while summer heat exceeded 100 degrees. Food scarcity was constant. Only those with the most efficient metabolisms could survive the lean months. Malaria continued to claim lives even in the mountains, killing anyone without natural resistance before they could reproduce. Banditry and blood feuds eliminated the weak and stress-sensitive. Generation after generation, only the genetically toughest survived to pass on their DNA. By the medieval period, these mountain communities had become genetic islands where longevity traits concentrated at levels found nowhere else on Earth. Today, villages like Perdas de Fogo and Villa Grande Strisili produce male centenarians at rates 4 to 5 times higher than anywhere else in Italy, the living legacy of 8 millennia of genetic selection. 3,000 miles away, a parallel genetic experiment was unfolding on the remote islands of Okinawa. The Ryukyu Kingdom faced its own crucible of survival that would forge exceptional longevity genetics over 15 centuries. Located in the typhoon corridor of the Western Pacific, Okinawa endured regular devastating storms that killed anyone without extraordinary resilience. The island's position between China and Japan made them targets for constant warfare, piracy, and political upheaval. During the Meiji period, Japan's annexation of Okinawa brought heavy taxation and forced conscription that decimated the population. The Battle of Okinawa in 1945 created a genetic bottleneck that concentrated longevity variants in the surviving population. Traditional Okinawan society developed around moai, lifelong social support groups that activate genetic pathways, reducing inflammation and boosting immune function. The cultural practice of hara-hachi-bu, eating until 80% full, triggered caloric restriction responses that extended lifespan in individuals with the right genetic variants. The Greek island of Ikaria developed its longevity secrets through 2,000 years of strategic invisibility. Located in the turbulent Eastern Aegean Sea, Ikaria became a dumping ground for political dissidents under Roman rule. Exiled philosophers, heretical Christians, and political rebels were shipped to this remote island and left to survive or die. Those who thrived passed down genes for stress resistance and social cooperation that became concentrated in the island's isolated population. Byzantine persecution of iconoclastic Christians drove additional waves of refugees to Ikaria's mountain villages. During Ottoman rule, Ikarians cultivated their reputation as a worthless backwater to avoid taxation. They developed a culture of deliberate slowness, afternoon naps, late dinners, natural movement, that match their genetic predispositions for longevity. Modern analysis shows Ikarians carry concentrated frequencies of variants that regulate blood pressure and maintain cardiac function across extended lifespans. The genetic insights from blue zones are already transforming medicine and opening new frontiers in human life extension. Pharmaceutical companies are developing drugs that mimic blue zone genetic pathways. Rapamycin activates the same mTOR pathways triggered by caloric restriction, while metformin mimics metabolic advantages seen in mountain shepherds. Gene therapy researchers are working to insert protective variants directly into human cells, potentially conferring genetic advantages that took natural selection centuries to create. The goal extends beyond living longer. Scientists aim to help everyone age with the health and cognitive sharpness that blue zone genetics provide naturally. Scattered across 5 remote locations, these communities represent humanity's greatest longevity experiments. Natural laboratories where centuries of isolation created genetic advantages that science is only now beginning to decode. Blue zones prove that extreme longevity isn't a miracle. It's biology operating at maximum potential, showing us what human lifespan could look like when genetic, environmental, and cultural factors align perfectly. As science learns to harness these genetic secrets, we stand on the threshold of a revolution that could transform how our entire species ages. This was Ancestry Code, and as always, thanks for watching.